Welcome to the CAD Office Training Guide series for FDOTConnect. I'm John Mark Palacios, CAD Applications Engineer. Today I'll be going through the FDOTConnect Roadway Design 3D Modeling Guide. In this course, we will learn the Bentley Open Roads Designer Connect Edition tools for design and 3D modeling within the FDOTConnect workspace. In this series of videos, I will take you step by step through each exercise from the guide. Today we're going over the second part of Chapter 2 of the guide, Basic Corridor Modeling. So here's what we're going to cover. There's going to be a little bit of repeat. So basically we're going to be creating the models, corridor models for the in conditions on the State Road 61 and then the corridor model for the US 98. We're going to add in corridor references. We're going to change the corridor feature definition. And we're going to look at the corridor objects. And we're also going to set point controls. So that's a new thing that we haven't covered yet. All right, so let's start with going over the exercises. All right, so we're going to exercise 2.8 on page 2-16 of the training guide. So if you were following along in the previous section, you may already have this MODLRD mainline 61 file open. We're going to create a new file for the in conditions of this. So if you don't, you just want to open any file so we can get it to the FDOT ribbon and create file. So this is going to be right here, FDOT ribbon. Go over to the leftmost actions button, create file. And make sure you select, if you're not already in Roadway design files, and the file type should be MODLRD. And for the modifier, we're going to call it detail, and the file we'll just put 61. And make sure the county and coordinate system, everything looks good. They look all right. So I'm going to just click Create Open File. And then when that opened up, I can click Close. We're done with that. So we need to attach the reference files that same as we had before pretty much. I'm going to do a little shortcut here. So if I go to the Home tab and go to Attach, and I'm going to do Attach Reference, and now I'm going to attach the mainline file, because we do need that attached as well, the mainline 61, because we're going to tie into that corridor. So just select that file and click Open. And before you close out this properties, we're just going to change the nested attachments. It's live nesting. We'll just change that depth to 1, so it pulls in the references. And then I'm going to click OK. So this way it'll pull in the serve RD and the alignment as well. And then let me do a fit view. So there we are, it's in there. The one thing I'll say with this method of the live nesting and everything, this is fine for this one because I need this referenced anyway, this mainline. If you're doing it off of a different alignment, like we're gonna create a corridor for US 98, you do not want to reference the other models from the other alignments in there, because quantities are going to be calculated in that model file later on. And when you do quantities, you need to bear in mind that it's going to be per alignment. And earthwork and all the other quantities, they need to be in separate files. And you can't even have it referenced. It's not as simple as just opening up the reference and turning off the display. You cannot have it referenced, period. So you don't want to, so for this one, these are all going to be quantities along the State Road 61 alignment, and the US 98 is going to be on a different alignment. All right, so we got the main line. That one's referenced in. We need to set the active terrain. That's step 4 and 5. You can certainly use the same tools that we did before, but this time I'm going to show you the other way to do it. So if I click on the existing ground, I get the little pop-up here to set as active terrain model. So I'm just going to select that middle button. It sets that as active, and notice it added a 3D model in the references. So now it's created a 3D model for this. So we can bring up the 2D and 3D view. Before I do that, the next step, I'm just going to check, make sure there's an active profile. There is, so we're good there. So if you just hit F2 or right click, hold down, bring up view control, I can do the second option for plan and 3D. All right, so there's my 3D view. Looks like constructions are turned on. I'm going to turn that off. I don't think I want it. I'd rather see what it looks like. Okay, we might need it on later, but for now we'll turn it off. And this looks good in the 2D view. So I'm just going to do save settings. And then we can go into the next exercise, 2.9, creating the corridor. So there's going to be, again, the same commands that we're using last time we created a corridor. So go to the Corridors tab, and the leftmost option, New Corridor. Locate the corridor baseline, so that's this. Oh, again, it's still the center line, State Road 61. Reset for active profile, so right-click, reset. And now it asks for the name. The name is going to be SR61R. So select that. If you hit enter, it should finish up that. And if you hit enter, I think it also ends the command because it took me out of it, which is not a big deal because I'll show you how to get back in. So there's my corridor boundary. It's created. So now I just do new template drop because the other one would have just gone straightly into that command if I hadn't closed out of it. So I do new template drop. It asks me to locate a corridor. So I'm going to select that boundary that was just created. Now it asks me to select the template. So I'm going to click the three dots over here. Over here says a little easier to see. So click the three dots on the bottom right of that. It brings up the pick template dialog. So I'm going to go into corridor templates and I'm going to pick the SR61R. This one has the curb, sidewalk, end conditions. So this is all the outside from the edge of pavement on. So I'm going to click OK on that and accept. And now it wants me to select a start station. And we're at step 6 here, so the station's outlined. But basically what we need, so for this one, you can see for the main line we started it there. But for the outside, we could start at the same location, but there's a radius here. But then again, there's this outside end condition looks the same going around this edge of pavement. So we might as well just let this same corridor continue around the radius. So what I'm going to do is for the start station, select the radius return for the US 98, which is where that runs this direction, this baseline right here. Select the radius return over there, that end of it. So it's 700 plus 40 to lock to the start, and then ask me to lock to lock to the start. So the start snapping to the start is what I mean to say. Do not lock to start. Don't lock to the end either. So for the end, the main line ends over here, but this outside end condition, the sidewalk really ends right here. It doesn't wrap around this radius like the other one, so we're just going to end it right here at the beginning of this radius, because things start to change there with the curb ramp. So it's 713 plus 68.58, just snapping to that radius return. The drop interval should be the same. It's again based on context class, so I'm just going to pick 20. I'm not clear if that used 20, so if you want to check the the drop interval. If you bring up the properties here, this little property is not going to show you enough. It's just a short one. I don't think it shows you enough. Oh, there it is, right there, 20. All right, so yeah, that's good to go. So we need, if you look in the 3D now, it placed it there on top of the road. So don't freak out about that. If it's doing that for you, that's not wrong. That's what it's supposed to do. So what we're going to do, because all we told it was to follow the center line. It doesn't tie to this corridor at this point. Now, if you built it off of an edge of pavement and you have a PGL profile or something, it might be good to go right off the bat. But we don't have a PGL profile. We need to tie it to follow this template. So we're going to do that with a point control later on to say, hey, make this edge of pavement on the curve match the edge, tie to the same point as the edge of pavement on the pavement from the other corridor. But first, let's go ahead and add in the other corridor for the left side. So we're going to do the same process. New corridor. Select that baseline or center line for State Road 61. Reset for active profile, and then call this one SR 61L. And if I just accept instead of hitting return, it goes straight into the create template drop. Now make sure you change the template drop. So click the three dots here, and we got to change to SR61L. So that's my left side. Just the mirror image of the right. I'm going to accept that, and now I need to start station. So this one I'm going to do similar. I'm going to start it at the radius return here where the sidewalk ends. So it's 700 plus 24. And I'm going to come down here to this end. And this one I'm going to snap to the same point, this radius return here. So it's 714 plus 23.96. And leave that drop interval at 20, accept that. And now it puts it in, and again, it's on top of the pavement. Not a problem right now. So the next exercise, we're going to go ahead and move this over with a point control. So that's exercise 2.10. So the command we need for this is going to be, hold on a second here. I'm going to turn off the, this is getting cluttered. I'm going to turn off the level display like we did on the other one. So I'm going to level display manager. And I'm just going to turn off the default 3D, right click and do display. So it's a little bit cleaner in here. That's better. Okay, now we go into exercise 2.10. Let's add these point controls. So we go to the corridors tab. And we want to go to the edits drop down. Click on the drop down because you don't know which command is going to use. The very last one is create point control. So select that, and then as you locate the corridor. So first we're going to do this right side corridor. Be careful because there's 3 corridors now. You got to make sure you're just grabbing the right handle. So you can grab these short handles here, or you can grab this boundary. It really shouldn't matter. Either one will work. So I'm going to select that boundary this time. And the start station for this point control, obviously we can't point control beyond here because there's no, to this corridor because there's no edge of pavement beyond this point, and it doesn't match up with edge of pavement here because it does the radius return. So we're going to address the radius in the detail modeling chapter. So the start station for this should be 701 plus 00 right here at the snap it to this end of the radius return. So this is where it starts to shift away from the edge of pavement in the mainline corridor. And then for the end station, for this one, we're going all the way to this radius return, so we'll just lock it to the end. So I'm just going to check that box to lock it to the end. accept that. And it wants a control description. I'm going to call it EOP. Accept that, and then ask me to locate a point. Now, here's the thing about points on this. When you're selecting the points, you have, it appears that you have the option, and well, it does give you the option to select points in here. Don't use that. It hasn't worked right. You want to do is select the point in the 3D view that you need for both points that we're going to select. So just come in the 3D view over here where it's sticking out on its own, and it's this point here at the curve. It's the RT underscore PVT underscore EOP out. So I'm going to select that point. And remember, remember I said the interval turns the points into lines. So the point is a line here in the 3D. So we got the RT, PVT, EOP out. So select that line / point. And then the next option, it says mode. This needs to change to both. So we're going to tie it horizontally and vertically. And while I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and change the control type. So it's set to linear geometry. We need to pick corridor feature because we want to tie it to another corridor. So I'm going to accept both, accept the corridor feature. Now it asks me to locate a corridor. This is the corridor I want to tie it to. So this is the mainline corridor. And here, because it's in a reference, I can't select the boundary. I have to grab the corridor handle. So again, be careful that you're selecting the right corridor handle. If you hover over it, you get the little pop-up. That may help because it says corridor SR61. This is corridor handle. And it also points out that it's from a reference. It's from the MODLRD mainline 61. So that's the one I want. If you come over here, you're going to have handles for that one. You're going to have handles for this other corridor. So it may be easy to get the wrong one. So we'll select this right here. Then it asks you to locate the reference feature. So this is the edge of pavement from that corridor. And again, it's going to fill this out. Don't use it. That doesn't work. Use this in the 3D view to zoom in on the edge of pavement and select the line there. And it's actually the way these templates are set up, they are the same point name. So I'm going to select that point. Just as a matter of practice, I like to use priorities like 10, 20, just so if you ever need to change something in between the two, you don't have to go and change all the others. You could just put it a lower number or higher number. So priority, I'm just setting to 10. That just means if there's multiple point controls on the same point, which one you use, you're going to use the highest priority one. Not an issue here. So it doesn't really matter. It's not going to make a difference if you set it. Let's just leave it at 1 for this particular purpose. But start station, offsets, all these should be at 0. Horizontal and vertical. So I'm accepting all that, and then it moved it over. You can see it's over here now. This piece, there's no point control on that. That's where the radius is going to go later. So don't worry about that. It's not going to be resolved until we get to chapter 4 and start finishing up the model. So it's there. We don't have that feature definition the same as on the main line, so it's not following the curve very well. Remember, it's a preliminary feature definition, so it's very sparse. Let's go ahead and add the point control for the other side. So that's going to be step number 8. It says basically repeat steps for the left side. So again, we go to point controls right here. This edit menu, and the second time I don't have to click the drop down, because notice this changes because that's the last command I used on this split button. So I'm just going to click the button now, create point control, and ask me to locate the corridors. Remember, this corridor I want to put the point that I want to point control, the shift. So this is this left side corridor. Grab this handles here. Now once the start station and stop station. So somewhere here, I'm going to start it at the radius return over here along State Road 61. It's actually 701 plus 34. And let me just check the end. Yeah, locking to the end should be fine. I'll leave that locked to the end. I'll leave it as EOP. That's what it is. And then locate the point. Remember, this is the point that you need to locate in 3D. So let me zoom in on this curb, find this edge of pavement. So here's the LT, PVT, EOP out. It's the line there. The mode, because I just used this, it uses the previous setup command, which is both. So I'm going to accept that. And it's still corridor feature, accept that. And then locate the corridor. This is going to be my mainline corridor again. So I know this handle is the right one from previous time. So I'm going to select that handle. And then it asks me to locate the reference feature. So zoom in your 3D view, find that reference feature. There's two layers on the pavement. You got the friction course and the structural course. So make sure you got the top one that's on the friction course. So it's LT, PVT, EOP out, not this other one, which is PVT, BOT out. It's a bottom out. Otherwise, you'll have a break on that edge of pavement. It'll look like a road that was resurfaced with overlay with no milling. We don't do that here, right? Ever? All right. Priority, I'm going to leave that at 10. And I'm going to leave this offsets at 0. And there we go. So it moved it over. It didn't do it here. And this is a much wider radius. So it goes a little bit farther out. But you can look through here, pan around, say, hey, it looks about right. Zoom. You can always rotate the view if you want to inspect it more. I think that's it for that exercise. So now we can go to 2.11. So let's go ahead and tighten up these intervals to match. So I'll show you a different way, and we said it before, just grabbing the little menu. Well, there's two of them we need to do. When you have multiple corridors at once, there is a way to select them both at once and change them both at the same time. So I'm going to open up Explorer. I'm just going to use the little Explorer button here. You can use F11 as a shortcut. And then I want to go to the Open Roads model, which is right here. Click on that tab. And then expand out this file name, expand out the corridors, and it sorts them, it lists them here by feature definition. So these are all the ones on the preliminary feature definition. So if I expand that out, I can see my two corridors. So I get 61R, 61L. Now I can hold down Shift and select multiple. And then if I right click, well, there's not very many options there. So if I just select one of them, right click, I have a lot more options, and I can bring up properties. The main thing I need now is properties. So that'll bring it up, and it'll be open over here. Now I can hold down Shift and select the second one. So now properties shows there's two selected. And now I can make changes to both at once here. So if you expand out the feature section, here's my feature definition of preliminary. So I can change it right here in properties, click the drop down, and then change it to 3 final. And you can see in the 3D view that it tightened that up. And in the end, you can see particularly where that does that jog, that it's a little bit shorter now. So it matches this pretty well. It's much better. So that's pretty much as far as the corridor model creation. That's pretty much it. Now this is end conditions here. This is tying to the existing ground model. So you can see the variation as it follows that slope. So those are set up. That's when we set this as the active terrain. That's where it's picking that up. It's just set to follow the active terrain model. And I'm going to go ahead and just save settings on this file in case I made any changes that need to get saved. And I'm going to go into the next exercise, 2.12, which is going to be creating the corridor model for US 98 along here. So go back to the FDOT tab and do create file. So it's going to be MODL RD, same one again. For the modifier, I'm going to leave that blank. I'm just going to call it MODL RD 98. And the modifier is optional. You don't ever have to put anything in there. The one where you really have to is going to be like for existing model because you want to distinguish it, where you really should. So Wakula and coordinate system looks right. Should be North Florida. So I'm just going to select create open file. And then when that opens up, I'm going to click close. And the first thing I need to do is attach the references. So I'm going to do this the same way I did for the other mainline one. I don't want to do that live nesting this time around. So I'm going to do attach. Select attach reference. And I need the ALGN RD01. I need the DSGN RD01s. I'm holding down control to select the second one. And that's all I need. Remember, I do not want to attach that main line. So we're going to run earthwork on this file. We're going to run earthwork on the main line. So this file cannot be attached in that one. Now for the detail modeling, I can attach it as long as I don't do live nesting from the main line to attach the detail in that one. The detail I can attach the mainline 61, and I'll need to for that one because I'll need to tie the two together. But when I run earthwork, I only want the detail attached, and for the mainline, again, I just want the mainline attached. So the transition one is a separate file, and that actually helps us out in this case. If I were doing detail modeling in the same one as the mainline, it would give me a problem when I go to do earthwork, because either I have to detach it and lose all the connections there, or it's going to calculate it. Even if the display is turned off, it's going to calculate all the earthwork from the other road as well. So just something to keep in mind. I know earthwork's a chapter down the road, but I just want to make sure you're clear on that, because this is a little bit different than workflow. If you've done SS4, SS10, you have to keep it in mind as you're designing, as you're doing your model management plan, how that's going to split, how that's going to transition when you have multiple alignments like we do on this one. So I have the DSG and RD01, the ALG and RD01. Going to open those, click OK. Defaults are good. And then I'm going to attach the ground. I'm going to go back to attach. Go up here to survey. Double click. And attach the GDTM RD01. And accept the defaults there. Now I'm going to do a fit view. And we need to set this as the active terrain model. So I'm just going to use a little pop-up menu here again. Set as active terrain model. And let's see here. We need to go the 2D and 3D views. Go ahead and open that up. The one thing I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and annotate this alignment this time around. So I'll go to drawing production, element annotation, annotate element. Drawing on production tab of the ribbon, element annotation, click the drop down and choose annotate element. Something was selected here. I don't want to annotate that. Make sure you clear out the selection before you do that, because it's a data point to annotate select elements. That was going to do something completely different. So I already selected that. I'm just going to click the button because I know it's the right command here. Element annotation. Locate elements, reset to complete. Okay, so I'm going to locate the baseline for US 98. So I could add stationing in there and then reset. There's my stationing. Okay, that's good. That'll make it easier to figure out where I am when I'm building this corridor. And now let's bring up the 2D and 3D. You can just use the F2 key. But I'm going to right click and do view control and plan in 3D. So here's my 3D. You got the baseline here. You can see this has a profile because the baseline's showing up. And here's the 61, but US 98 is the one we're concerned with for this one. So really, I mean, you can hover over this as well to verify an active profile, but if there's an active profile, it shows up in the 3D view. If it's not active, it won't show up. So we know it's active. All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead and save settings. I think that's ready to go. We should be ready to create the corridor for this. All right, so we're going to go to the corridors tab of the ribbon again. Back to new corridor. And this time the baseline is going to be the US 98. I'm going to reset for the active profile. Now, before you accept everything, I'm going to go ahead and change the feature definition now and just build it on final so I don't have to come back and change it later. And the feature name for this, it's going to be RRR 88. And I'm going to accept that. And the template, let's go ahead and click the three dots. You can see it created the corridor because I've got the box here. I went straight into the create template. So here I'm going to select this RRR 98 cross slope correction L control. So we're actually getting fancy on here. If you want to dig into it and play with things, it's got cross slope correction on here, and there's a few different fun things like that. So I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to accept that template. And then it wants to start station. So the start station needs to start and stop where these lines from the design file start and stop. So in this case, it's going to be this 27 plus 92.08 right here where this paved shoulder starts. I think, yeah, because this is all. Yeah, no, this is pavement milling, so that's only just a widening part. So it's going to start right here at 18 plus 15.67. Sorry, it can't start there because the baseline ends there. You can see the quarter boundary there, or maybe that the profile ends there. So it just won't build anything without that profile. So it's fine. We'll leave it at that. So you can see what it does. So for the end station is basically this end over here where this milling line is. Just snap it to that point. So it's 47 plus 16.81. The drop interval on this, we'll leave it at 20. And it builds something. And you can see here there's a bunch of vertical lines. This is these are end conditions looking for the existing ground. That'll help it out with doing the end conditions, makes it easier to be able to do reports on the cross-slope correction. So if I do view attributes and turn off constructions or use the F7 shortcut, you can see something was built. So this got resurfacing in the middle, and then it's got some other sections here. But it's not quite what it needs to be. Not yet. So we're going to have to add a bunch of corridor references in here first. So first I'm going to go ahead and turn off because because I put it in as final, it's pretty tight already. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the display. I'll just do it from the references. I'll turn off the display of the 3D model with its 2D view active. So that cleans it up a little bit. I still have the handle here that I can work with it. All right, so that takes us into exercise 2.14. We can add the corridor references. So you might be familiar with this command, select all and level by element. It is useful, but it will not select in ORD. It won't select items from a reference file. So basically what we need to do is reference all these milling lines in, everything that says pavement milling L. So these have feature definitions, and we need the pavement asphalt UPA, that's for widening, and the paved shoulder, so I can get the shoulder width accurate. So basically we want to reference all those lines in to this corridor. So we need to create a selection set of those. So without using that command, the best thing is just going to be go into your level display manager here. And then I want to let's see, in this file, I want to turn off everything but the corridor handles. Okay, so I'm going to do all off, and I'm going to turn corridor handles stage 3 on. I have corridor handles, and I do not have template handles, just corridor handles. So that's all I need to be able to select the corridor. And then I come in here for the reference, go down to the DSG and RDO1. And here, let's just do right click and do all off. And then turn on pavement milling. We're going to need the EUP. What is on EUP? I don't think there's anything on there. It should be on pavement asphalt. That's usually what the edge of pavement is set to. So it does have these lines going this way. That shouldn't be an issue, even if those get added, but you can always select them or deselect them manually. And then we see, we need the shoulder. So shoulder pave, turn that one on. So those are the lines that we need for the references here. And let's go ahead and go to the alignment, and let's just right click on that and turn off the display of that so we don't see the alignment, so we don't select that by accident. And also the GDTM, let's turn off the display of that. So now I can create a selection set a lot easier. So if I do this from this element selection here, if I change it to shape, then I can just draw it and not add a bunch of references that I don't need here. So this is just puts kind of polygons here, so I can just draw a shape around this US 98 and close it, and it selects everything that is encompassed by that shape. So that's good. And now I don't want the corridor handles selected in there. That'll just confuse things. So I'm going to click change it to individual, and then I'm going to click the minus button to subtract that. I'm going to grab these corridor handles. Okay, that's subtracted from it. So now the selection set is just what I need. I'll go ahead and subtract this line because I don't need that. All right, so it should be just the lines along the US 98. Probably don't need these on the radius returns, but I'll leave them alone because it's not going to hurt anything. All right, so that selection set is done. Now we can add corridor references. So we go over here to Corridors tab, and the corridor references right here. I'm going to click the drop down, and select Add Corridor Reference. So let's be locate the corridor. So this is why I left the corridor handles open. That's why I left that level on. So I select this corridor handles, and it says data point to apply references to 84 selected elements. Now, if yours is a little bit different, it's probably because you got more elements selected here. The main thing is if you got all of these selected, they'll get added as a reference. So that's the important part here. So I'm going to go ahead and data point or left click and watch what happens in 3D. You should see some changes as it picks up the widening areas and everything that it needs from those corridor references. But it'll take a second because it's reprocessing the corridor. So there you go. Dramatic change. We're adding all of those. So this right here, you can see that it's the intersection. You can see it's following those radius, those radii, I should say. But there's no edge of pavement there, so it doesn't quite know what to do. And over here, there's, it shifts following the edges of pavement. Here's some widening for that turn lane, so that widening's working. And let's see, got some widening around here as well. Widening over there for a turn lane. So it's looked pretty good. It's mostly there. So there's some other cleanup that we can do on the detail modeling. When we get to that, we clean up the intersections some. But as far as for this chapter, this should be good to go. Thank you for joining me today for the CAD Office series for FDOTConnect. This was the second part of Chapter 2 on basic corridor modeling for the FDOTConnect Roadway Design 3D Modeling Guide.